going through all of the records, especially if you're going through like hospital records, you could be looking at 100 to 200 pages. And AI is great to go through all that, but then there's obviously going to be the concerns of, privacy, security, and those sorts of things. So, running through things through ChatGPT is not always the best and safest thing to do. So those were initially, obviously doing dates of service and trying to track dates of service. It was to a point where it was always helpful, but it was just too much for me to do, too much of a pain point for me to do it on my own. But then anytime kind of changed that for me because it was able to put that all in, give me secured AI review, link everything up, no hallucinations and those sorts of things. So yeah. I try to find different ways to create a treatment timeline and just wasn't coming up with an efficient way. I just wasn't really able to. Just short of just me going through all the records and handwriting it in, or me just plugging it into Excel or that kind of thing. That's kind of how I was doing it before. And it was to the point where sometimes I just wouldn't do it because it would just take so much effort and time, and the benefit of really doing it wasn't always the best. Usually you can try and go after some big events and that, and kind of focus on those in the demand, but really getting that breakdown, which would help once we file a lawsuit, once we go into mediation and those sorts of things. And in those kind of cases, I really would just take the time and go through it myself. It's just what it was. But now with the timeline, it saves all that time, and it really puts it into a nice, and it is very helpful once you go into litigation, because then you're able to use it in mediation or for trial purposes when you've got to make up a demonstrative to show the other parties or the jury, here's the timeline of treatments, here's how everything played out. The gap in treatment is amazing. It actually helped me on one of a demand I did a couple months ago. There were some records that were missing that I was kind of getting piecemeal from the provider. So I'm pretty sure I thought I had everything, but I was able to plug all the records in and quickly found the gaps in terms of not gaps in treatment, but gaps in records. The treatment was done, but then it would notify, hey, you don't have records for this, you don't have records for that. So that was, I think, a bigger catch is missing records and bills and those sorts of things. But gaps in treatment, again, it helps because you're able to then identify and explain away sometimes those gaps in treatment. And I can then reach out to the client and say, hey, look, what happened here? What was going on at that time? They can tell me so that I can always bring it to the attention to mediation or if we go to trial. On a case I had recently in a demand that anytime I actually caught something in the crash report, when I was preparing the demand and I put the traffic crash report in, and it actually, when it pumped out the sample demand or the draft demand, has actually caught a couple things on the crash report that I had missed initially, which I was able to highlight in the demand itself, which I think helped in the tender. It was basically a rear end collision, but and I don't know if the trooper believed there was alcohol or not. I didn't have any indication prior to my own investigation and whatever else in the case. I didn't have any indication that the at-fault driver was under the influence or anything else. It was like 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. So it was another reason why. But the trooper had indicated that they had suspected the use of alcohol. They suspected alcohol, that the at-fault driver was under the influence. They didn't do a DUI investigation. They didn't do anything else. But that note was notified, or that was indicated on the crash report. And again, it would have been something I would have caught at some point, especially during the finalizing, you really start focusing in on everything. But the AI picked it up and actually included it in the crash report. Either that, or it was during one of the reviews when I said, review the crash and do that. But it was able to pick that out and note it, flag it, say, hey, the trooper suspected alcohol use. And so I included it, and that's one of those things where insurance companies, like, if that's it, they are always afraid in those kind of things of punitive damages and those sorts of things. So they're very quick to shut the case down, tender limits, and settle the case. And it was a great catch by the AI on that one. it can save maybe at least an hour on an easy case to maybe a couple hours on a harder case or more complex case with a lot of different providers, records, those sorts of things, injuries. So I mean, it's saving that. It's just making things a lot more efficient for me.